Today, Taiwanese voters defy warnings from China, electing the Democratic Progressive Party for a third term. Victoria Police investigate whether a fire at a tobacco store in Melbourne is linked to a string of targeted attacks. Houthi rebels vow to continue military action in the Red Sea after a second US strike in Yemen. And Aussie hopefuls on court as the 2024 Australian Open gets underway. Hello, welcome to ABC News. I'm Lorna Dunkley. Taiwan has elected the ruling party's candidate, William Lai, angering China and cementing a path towards heightened tensions in the region. Beijing had painted the vote as a choice between war and peace, calling on the Taiwanese people to reject Mr. Lai, labelling him a dangerous separatist and refusing to rule out using force to claim ownership of the democratic island. But voters rejected that warning in yesterday's poll, securing an unprecedented third term for the Democratic Progressive Party. East Asia correspondent Kathleen Calderwood reports from Taipei.
The energy here at the Democratic Progressive Party's headquarters is electric. The current Vice President, Lai Ching-te, has won the presidency, which means for the first time since democratisation, the Taiwanese people have given a political party a third term in office. This is a strong rebuke to China that the Taiwanese want to determine their own future, even in the face of growing threats and military might.
Taiwanese people are they still know what is the right thing to do. Like choosing the right president is making the futures better.
I'm so proud of my country. Even I've left for 20-something years. But this is really a place in Asia, leading place for, we really fight for the Democrats, and also we actually, I think no other place can be like Taiwan.
Lai Ching-te campaigned on a platform of continuing on the path set by President Tsai Ing-wen, maintaining the status quo and promoting Taiwan's distinct identity and keeping ties with the US strong.
We have not engaged in any provocations. Taiwan simply wants to maintain its democratic and free way of life.
When conceding defeat, the main opposition party, the Kuomintang's presidential candidate Ho Yui, apologised to his supporters and went on to address the DPP, saying that when they're navigating the relationship between China, Taiwan and the US, the security of the Taiwanese people needs to be safeguarded. The leader of the new party, the Taiwan People's Party, Ko Wen-je, thanked his supporters and told them they proved to the world that democracy was the island's greatest asset. Now, it's expected that this result will provoke a response from Beijing, presenting an immediate challenge for the government. But they'll also go into the next term facing domestic challenges. They've failed to secure a majority in the parliament, meaning they'll have to navigate minority government. But importantly, they'll also have to figure out how to address domestic issues like cost of living and high housing prices, which in particular have galvanised young voters away from the political establishment.
Dr. Lennon Yao Chung Chang is an Australian Taiwanese who returned to Taiwan to cast his ballot. He's happy with the result.
This is a very important election for Taiwan, and again, we see Taiwanese people voted for democracy and freedom, no matter what the result is. But even though the result is not what I'm expecting, we still celebrate the peaceful exercise of democratic rights of people in Taiwan. And like was reported just now, while China is claiming that Taiwan is part of their territory, Taiwanese people did have a right to vote for their future leaders and have exercised the democracy very well here in Taiwan. We see it as a very successful democratic example in the world.
In other news, fire crews have battled exploding fireworks at a suspicious fire in a tobacco store in Melbourne's north. Police were called after multiple explosions were heard coming from inside the shop on Bridgewater Road in Craigieburn just after 3:30 this morning. 14 emergency crews arrived to find the roof engulfed in flames. Victorian police are investigating whether the fire is linked to more than 24 arson attacks on tobacco stores, gyms and restaurants across Melbourne in a turf war between organised crime and bikie gangs. Heatwave conditions have fuelled uncontrolled bushfires in Western Australia. 3 blazes burning northeast of Perth have now been downgraded to watch and act alerts, but continue to pose a possible threat to lives and homes. More than 120 hectares have already been burnt. ACT Emergency Services responded to more than 200 calls for help as a result of yesterday's severe storm. Nearly 70 millimetres of rainfall was recorded in 2 hours at Lake Burley Griffith, while 47 millimetres fell in half an hour in Tuggeranong. The intense rainfall caused flash flood and damaged power lines and roofs. Despite working through the night, emergency crews are still responding to dozens of calls for help. Houthi rebels in Yemen say US strikes on its positions have had no significant impact on the group's ability to continue its attacks on vessels in the Red Sea. The Houthis also claim there have been no casualties in the latest attack by the US, a day after dozens of similar American and British airstrikes. The rising tensions have triggered panic for residents in Yemen.
A lot of people absolutely are afraid of having oil crisis, so a lot of people are lining up in front of home gas stations trying to fill up their calendars, and they are scared of expanding the airstrikes launched by British and America.
Middle East expert Gerald Feierstein says the prospect of another regional conflict depends on the Houthis' next moves.
Certainly, the Iranians have provided the materiel support, the weapons and other equipment that the Houthis have used to launch these attacks. They've had a close association for a number of years, and they're fundamentally, I think, on the same wavelength in terms of how to go forward. I don't think that the Iranians are directing the Houthi attacks. But they certainly aren't objecting to them either. And so the question again is whether Iran is going to advise them to be more careful, because we also believe that the Iranians don't want to see an expansion of the conflict any more than we do. And this is one of the complications that the U.S. is confronting, because we have a number of different priorities at play in what's going on. One, of course, is the importance of protecting international shipping in the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb. And that was really what drove the decision to strike targets in Yemen. But we also want to avoid expanding the conflict beyond Gaza, and we don't want to jeopardize these initiatives that are being led by the United Nations, that include direct negotiations between the UN and the Houthi, between the Saudis and the Houthis, to try to bring an end to the Yemen civil war that's almost 10 years old now. And so the U.S. is trying to balance all of these competing goals. We do believe, I think, and the Yemenis and the Houthis have said themselves, that they don't want to lose the negotiations. They want to continue negotiating with the Saudis, and they also have to be mindful of not doing things that are going to jeopardize what they see as an important way forward for themselves in ending the conflict in Yemen.
100 days into the war, Israel is pressing on with its bombardment of Gaza. The Hamas-run health ministry says 135 Palestinians have died in the past day. The cities of Rafah and Khan Yunis bore the brunt of the attacks, with Israel claiming it was targeting active Hamas command centres. Benjamin Netanyahu says his nation will not be deterred from pursuing its assault on Gaza by the genocide case in the UN's top court. The case was mounted by South Africa, with the country's president congratulating his legal team for the feat. South Africa asked the court to impose emergency measures, ordering Israel to immediately halt its military action against Palestinian civilians.
ANC has always stood side by side with the people of Palestine in their struggle for self-determination. Nelson Mandela famously declared that our own freedom as South Africans is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. And comrades, that remains true.
To America now, and severe weather in the US state of Iowa is hampering the final days of campaigning ahead of the first big event on the US election calendar. Donald Trump is being challenged for the Republican presidential nomination by several high-profile candidates, but the former president appears to have a commanding lead despite his legal woes. North America correspondent Jade McMillan reports.
Iowa is freezing cold. There have been blizzard warnings in place, and the forecast for here in the capital, Des Moines, is for temperatures to get below minus 25 degrees Celsius. That's complicating the campaigning in the final stages of what is the first big test in the US election year. Iowa is the first state where Republicans will have their say on who they want to take on Joe Biden at the presidential election in November. And if the polls are correct, there's one person with a massive lead, Donald Trump. The former president is considered the frontrunner despite facing all sorts of legal problems, including 91 criminal charges in 4 separate cases and attempts to stop him from running in certain states. But many of his supporters are still planning to back him in what's known as a caucus here in a couple of days' time. And they say even if he became the nominee and then was convicted in any of these cases, it wouldn't affect their vote in November.
Not mine, but I'm pretty confident that that's not going to happen. So
why is that?
Just because the charges are trumped up. So I think he'll be proven to be not guilty.
Other Republicans want to see Donald Trump's political career come to an end. They're throwing their support behind his main rivals, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis or former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley.
Donald Trump is just too polarizing. I don't think he can lead our legislators on Capitol Hill. They just have too much against him. I think it's time for a change.
The weather has forced candidates to cancel or rearrange their events, and it could also have a big impact on who actually turns out to vote this week, meaning there's a lot of uncertainty in this race in what is going to be a really unpredictable year ahead.
Jade McMillan there. Coronation rehearsals have taken place in Denmark, with the country set to welcome their new monarch later today. Crowds are expected to gather in the Danish capital as Prince Frederik and Australian-born Princess Mary become king and queen. Denmark hasn't held a grand coronation or crowning ceremony since the mid-1800s, and the public have been promised this proclamation will be unfussy and pared back. Europe correspondent Isabella Higgins has more from Copenhagen.
Denmark is set to experience a historic royal handover, getting their first new monarch in more than 50 years. So what can we expect to see in this succession to the throne? Well, Prince Frederik will be proclaimed king on the balcony of Christiansborg Palace. We're told it'll be a simple ceremony with just a touch of royal spectacle. But when you speak to locals here, they say that they like this simple and pared-back approach of their monarchy.
The royals in Denmark, it's on a different scale than in the UK. Not as much money. The glamour is still there, but on another scale.
I think many of us, we weren't expecting this to happen now. So it's quite historical. Yeah. So right now I'm actually just walking around, just trying to take it all in.
Queen Margrethe has been a part of our society for so many years now. I'm going to be here tomorrow to witness it. It's quite historical.
What do you think of the royal family?
I'm a Republican, I will say, but I have a huge respect for the royal family and yeah.
The Australian-born Princess Mary is set to become queen, and she's certainly got plenty of fans. Many say that her humble and approachable nature has only made the monarchy more popular.
all Danes love Crown Princess Mary. I'm not sure that it's the Australian thing in her, but they love her. She's done wonderful things for our royal family, and she's really liked in Denmark. Also, that they are of course they're royals, but they're part of the society. They bicycle around. They have their kids in normal school, not like private schools.
Once the new king is proclaimed, there'll be a cannon salute, a fireworks display, a changing of the royal flags, but then without much more fanfare, his reign will begin in earnest.
With cost of living pressures and rising debt, 2023 school leavers say they're putting off starting uni so they can save money. Meanwhile, the number of university enrolments has plateaued for the first time in decades as would-be students ask, is it worth it?
Lilla Pearl Coffey graduated high school last year from a pre-university program, but didn't apply for a tertiary offer. The Brisbane 18-year-old would love to study arts, but is worried about HECS debt and job prospects.
Every older person tells you that uni is the time of your life. You meet so many new people, you have so many new experiences, and you find yourself through uni. But that isn't an option for like kids these days.
Some academics say degrees don't buy what they used to.
Absolutely, you're better off going to university, but maybe not in the same way that you would be 30 years ago.
Adelaide High School graduate Harper Forsyth received an ATAR in the high 90s and got offers for early admission, but is working this year, saving money to study humanities interstate in 2025.
The reality is what I want to study is not invested in.
Oscar Wadsley is applying to the Defence Force to save before studying law. He wants to be sure it's the right choice.
People are taking gap years and working through those just because they don't want to be diving into something which won't work for them and then have to pay that off over 30, 40, 50 years.
In 1989, 20% of Australians were university students at age 19. In 2007, it was a third. By 2016, it was 40%, which has plateaued all the way through to 2024. Some graduates feel they don't have as many options as previous generations.
And now that we are adults and we are here, and you've lied to us.
Jessica Black, ABC News.
Time for us to catch up with the sport. It is a big day. Catherine Murphy joins us live from Melbourne Park. Hi, Kath. Your favourite day of the year?
It is. Hello to you, Lorna. It is the best day of the year in Melbourne. It is day one of the Australian Open, which of course is happening on a Sunday this year. Feels a bit odd, Lorna, to be at the tennis with a Grand Slam starting on a Sunday. Of course, the French Open do that as well, and it means we have 15 straight days of tennis to look forward to. There's a massive night ahead with both defending champions taking to the court, but all Aussie eyes at this year's Australian Open will be on Alex de Minaur. He's now in the top 10, and he is the first Australian male in the top 10 since Leighton Hewitt. That was back in 2006. What an achievement it is for him to make that top 10 so early in the year. That was his goal. He plays tomorrow night. Fans are streaming into Melbourne Park. The temperature here is perfect for tennis. It is a beautiful 22 degrees. The fans are excited and they all have a different view on who'll win. Have a listen.
We're here to see some Aussies, hopefully. Any Aussies, I think. It'll be good fun, yeah.
I'm actually going to go the outer courts and support the Aussie.
It's good fun.
It's just good fun. It's just a great atmosphere. Yeah. We don't really mind exactly who we see. We're just here for the atmosphere, and it'll be good. Yeah.
I feel like Djokovic is the favourite, but Alcaraz has done it before, so hopefully he can do it again.
Probably de Minaur, if he's going to come close.
Djokovic has got an easy run, I reckon. Wozniacki. It's just making her comeback.
Yeah.
So,
Alex de Minaur.
Why Alex de Minaur?
Because he beat Djokovic.
Do you think he's a chance to win the Australian Open?
Yes.
Oh, I absolutely love to see that because, Lorna, I've known Alex de Minaur since he was 17. He was an orange boy for the Davis Cup side. That means a practice partner for all the guys. Leighton Hewitt has mentored him ever since then. No one has worked harder than Alex de Minaur to become a top 10 player, and it's just so lovely to see him get lots of attention, to see how the fans are reacting to him, because in years gone by, even when he's been Australia's #1 male player, he hasn't got the plaudits, because Nick Kyrgios, who's not playing in this Australian Open, has got all the headlines. We'll all be shouting for Alex de Minaur.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a great story, Kath? Also, some great comeback stories this year.
There are indeed, Lorna, so many feel-good stories. A lot of mums are returning to the tour. Here is our own Cameron Nichols with all the details.
Australian Open champions, former world #1s, and now new mothers. These three women have won a combined 8 Grand Slam titles, and now they're back for a shot at another.
It is great to see moms coming back, and I'm one of them.
After welcoming her daughter in February, Germany's Angelique Kerber is hoping to recapture the magic that took her to the 2016 title. And she's already tasted success this year, shaking off the rust to help Germany to a United Cup victory. Fans have had to wait a lot longer to see 2018 champ Caroline Wozniacki back in action. The Dane burst back onto the tour late last year and is hoping to continue that form in Melbourne, this time with 2 kids in tow.
Some days are survival, other days we're thriving, but we're getting through every day at a time, and the kids are happy, so that's the main thing.
The highest profile player making her comeback is Naomi Osaka. The Japanese star battled mental health issues and fell out of love with the game. Now, after taking time out to have her first child, she's feeling refreshed and showing glimpses of what took her to the top.
Oh, it's another stunner of a return.
I have a much more positive mindset and a much more grateful mindset, and I think overall I'm just happy to be here.
Loves Brisbane, the 2-time champion.
A growing number of women are choosing to return to the sport after having kids. Former world #3 Alina Svitolina came back last year, unveiling a revamped game, helping her defeat the dominant world #1. Back in 2011, Kim Clijsters showed that childbirth was no barrier to returning to the very top.
Kim Clijsters lets the emotions run free.
Claiming 3 Grand Slam titles on her return, including the Australian Open. And now, 3 more former champions are hoping to join the club. Cameron Nichols, ABC News.
Wow, good stuff. That was really interesting, Kath. Tell us about what's happening on the court today.
OK, the headline acts are tonight. This is what we're all waiting for, Lorna. So both defending champions are in action. Novak Djokovic is taking on a young qualifier in Dino Prizmic. It's a massive opportunity for Dino to earn some round 1 losing money. I feel really bad saying that, but I can't see him challenging Novak Djokovic. Let's have a look at his year last year, Novak. Now, the numbers I'm about to mention are absolutely insane, but we've got used to these numbers because we watch tennis and report on tennis in the era of the big 3. But Novak Djokovic is going for his 11th Australian Open title. To put that into context, Rafael Nadal, who has dominated at Roland Garros, has won 14. I honestly, the way Novak is playing, even though he is 36 years of age, that could happen. I'm going to say that. I mean, that would take a lot. It's 4 more years. He's nearly 40. But his friend Tom Brady played till he was, almost 45. So those are the figures we are dealing with Novak Djokovic. If he wins this Grand Slam, it's his 25th title. That is 1 ahead of Serena Williams and Margaret Court. So he would be the all-out record holder for Grand Slams. But let me tell you about his 2023. Not Not only did he win 3 Grand Slams, but of course he contested the final of Wimbledon, losing to Carlos Alcaraz. That means he won 27 out of 28 Grand Slam matches he contested. That is just wild, Lorna. I do not have words or vocabulary to talk about how incredible the man is. He's the out-and-out favourite. On the women's side of the draw, Aryna Sabalenka, the other defending champion, is playing tonight. She also takes on a qualifier. Now, she had a mixed build-up to this Australian Open. She played so well at the Brisbane International, but in the final, she met Jelena Rybakina, who she played in the final here at the Australian Open last year. She only won 3 games in that final against Jelena Rybakina, who absolutely thrashed her. In the post-match interview, she said, Jelena, thanks for the 3 games. Now, she did talk about that match and that loss in her pre-tournament presser. It's obviously on her mind, but she says she's over it. She shouldn't have any trouble in the first round. Can she defend her title? Or will it be Jelena Rybakina? Or Iga Swiatek? Unbelievably, she has 4 Grand Slams, 3 at the French Open, 1 at the US Open. Could this be her first Australian Open title? She essentially took over the world #1 status from Ash Barty when she retired, but she's never been able to take over the Australian Open crown. Can this be her year? She's been in scintillating form in the United Cup in the build-up, just dropping a set to Caroline Garcia, and she didn't like it. I think Iga's going to win this tournament, Lorna.
Catherine, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
Will do.
Looking around the country to Queensland, showers along the east, mostly sunny in the northwest and late rain in the southwest. In New South Wales and the ACT, mostly sunny and hot in the north, showers elsewhere. Mostly cloudy for Victoria with strong winds in the southwest. For Tasmania, a clearing shower in the southwest, mostly sunny in the southeast and mostly cloudy in the north. To South Australia, mostly cloudy in the west, a late shower in the north and mostly sunny elsewhere. In WA, mostly cloudy in the south, windy and warm in the northwest and showers across the rest of the state. For the Northern Territory, the chance of a storm in the north, windy over the interior and mostly sunny in the south. Looking ahead to tomorrow's forecast for the capital cities. Possible thunderstorms for Brisbane. A chance of a shower for Sydney and Canberra, mostly cloudy in Melbourne, mostly sunny for Hobart and Adelaide. It'll be sunny in Perth and there's the chance of a thunderstorm for Darwin. And that is the latest from ABC News. I'm Lorna Dunkley. Thanks for joining us.